We've acquired a wind developer, and we're working on wind. We have 1,000 megawatts under development. But the other thing we've done is take a wind map and take a sun map, a solar map, and take a look at and lay it over all our hydro facilities in South America, lay it all over our plant sites here, and look at a way to put wind and solar with our existing generation and build off the transmission infrastructure and try to take intermittent power sources and blend it with firm sources going forward. But the key here is storage. As Jeff said, you find an answer on the storage, and that will accelerate the business model that I shared with you earlier, and it will accelerate the value of wind and solar going forward in the future. Natural gas is an option. Nobody ever talks about how you take the carbon out of natural gas. Nobody's even thinking about that. But there's significant CO2 that comes from burning natural gas. We need more technology development there, more investment. I had the good fortune of co-chairing the National Action Plan on Energy Efficiency. And I sat through some very long, boring meetings. I wonder, what in the hell am I doing? Because I'm studying what every company has done in every state, and I looked at the success and the failure of the energy efficiency programs, including California's, probably one of the better ones of all the states, but it's not perfect. And I kept saying, wow, this has not worked. We spent most of our money trying to educate consumers to do the right thing in terms of energy efficiency, take something that's essentially back of mind and making it front of mind, so our money is into education, advertising. Our money should have been really spent on technology. And the reality is, all the money that we spent, we have failed. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And decoupling is something that people go, oh, decoupling's the answer. Well, making companies like us economically indifferent doesn't get the job done. You know that. Incentives work, and so you have to have something that drives you. So our idea on Save a Watt is simply as simple as this. Energy efficiency should be viewed as a supply option, fifth fuel. It should be treated like production. And if I can reduce a megawatt, I should get compensated for it in the same way I get compensated for building a new plant and producing a megawatt. And so what we effectively did, and this is consistent with the way PURPA worked, where they tied PURPA machines to the avoided cost of generation that we were building, we're suggesting you ought to tie Save a Watt values to the avoided cost of generation. But to kind of bring people into the water, a little early today discount, we said we would deliver Save a Watts at 90%. And if we could deliver a Save a Watt, what we would do is we want to earn off of it just like we had produced a megawatt, but at 90% of our avoided cost. And quite frankly, this idea is gaining currency. And the notion, and here's why it's fundamentally different. It's fundamentally different because in the old world, utilities spent the money. Nobody ever measured whether or not it delivered the results. They just put it in they passed through the cost. In this world, we take the risk. We spend our dollars, and we only get paid if it delivers a reduction of a megawatt. So we have third-party verification. I know there'll be some good arguments in state commissions with respect to that. But the point of the matter is it fundamentally changes the model. And it recognizes that we get paid for results. And quite frankly, results for us is being able to first enable our grid and then invest beyond the meter so we can produce the results. So we're highly motivated now with each of our customers, and we have relationships with them, to make those kind of investments, to be able to maximize the value or optimize the value of that network within their home. And actually, Tom Friedman wrote an article, and he's one of my favorite columnists, and let me tell you, after he wrote this article, he's my very favorite. But he described it as the mother of all energy paradigm shifts. Now, that's a pretty high mark. So we have a lot of work to do to live up to that billing, and we're prepared to live up to that billing. But the point here is really an important point. Our company is going to invest to optimize not just our grid, but to optimize the networks in the homes and the businesses of all our customers. And I could take you through discussions about smart meters. I could talk to you about the importance, as Jeff have, of an internet protocol-based meter with plug-and-play capability. I could talk to you about the future of plug-in hybrids. I could tell you about how we're deploying the echelon meters now in the Midwest and in North and South Carolina, how we're putting sensors on our system, and how we're going to spend this $1 billion in what we call utility of the future. And we are working today with BP and Toyota to look at ways where our business models intersect. We have a project going with those other two companies to really try to think through how to evolve our business model in the context of their evolving business models going forward. And let me tell you, I keep coming back to the plug-in hybrid because the cost per gallon is less than 1/4 the cost of gasoline. And I can envision that as a supply source during peak hours as much as reducing our unit cost in the off-peak periods. But at the end of the day, the key here is at the end of the day where we deliver value, and I started my conversation with you, is that we are going to pull these technologies through our system. Because, you know, Friedman had an interesting insight. He said, I don't get it. I don't get why the grid is the largest machine in the world, if you think about it, kind of as a large machine. And why is it there's been no real advances? There's a capital that's available, technologies are evolving. Why has it really evolved? And I thought that was a pretty interesting question. Because in his view, the law of large numbers and these economies of scales. And then he goes, that's what's missing. What's missing is having companies in the utility sector that create the market for the technologies, use their low-cost position to subsidize them as they come down the curve, and have the political capability to convince regulators that's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, that's going to transform. I should say, in closing, I had the good fortune for a decade to have Neil Armstrong on my board. And when there was a close vote, I started my presentations with one small step. It always got his vote. But he chaired the National Academy of Engineers and looked back over the 20th century. And what they had to determine, what was the greatest engineering achievement of the 20th century? Was it the internet? Was it going to the moon? Was it computers? Cars? No. The greatest engineering achievement of the 20th century was the electrification of America. That's what they picked. I'm here today to tell you that one of the greatest engineering achievements in the 21st century could well be taking our grid, optimizing these networks and the performance of these networks in a way where our economy becomes the most energy efficient economy in the world. And you know why I think that's an important objective? Because we're going to go in this world from 6 billion people to 9 billion people by 2050. And if you look at our GDP per capita, even if the population didn't grow and everybody in the world aspired to and achieved our GDP per capita, it's tied to energy use and emissions of CO2. I believe the battle over scarce resources in this century is going to be immense, tough. And the economy that's the most energy efficient will be the one that wins because they use scarce resources better than anybody else. That's the promise of what you do, and that's the hope of what we will do. Thank you very much.